All right, you guys, I've been in the game 10 plus years since 2015. I'm going to make this video straight to the point. This is not a fluffy video, but basically I was self-taught. There was nobody really teaching like the way I teach nowadays. There was really barely any tutorials. Shout out to NFX Beats, War Beats. Shout out to, there's another guy on Reason, and I forgot who else was back then, but there was nobody teaching this stuff. So I had to learn the hard way, which is trial and error. That's really the only way to learn. And I'm going to show you guys what I wish I knew when I started, you know, even 15 or 10. I was producing when I was 14, but that was like dabbling, but I got serious 10 years ago. So first thing is, if you guys are building for the first time, try to build around an acapella, especially if you're in hip hop. It just helps you with rhythms and grooves, and it helps you stop overfilling your track. So here we have an acapella. I think you can find these on Reddit, if I'm not mistaken. This one's called the Guesswork Acapella Stash. So basically this says 106 BPM. All you got to do is just change your project tempo to 106 like that. Drag it in. Now the one step you have to do though is grab this, what's called the slip tool up here on this little bar thing. And because it's not lined up. So when you turn your metronome on, it's not on beat. So you got to hit Alt, left click, and just drag that until it's on beat. Next thing you got to do is find the key of an acapella. So let's go to the channel rack here, click here, and I recommend buying Scalar 2. I'm not paid by this company. It's a plugin I use all the time to find out the key. Okay, so basically I'm going to listen to the acapella and just play notes on my keyboard. Let me actually turn on my keyboard. Okay, that would help. There we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is play notes on my keyboard, and basically I'm trying to match them with the acapella. Now, it would be better if you had the beat. So this is where the beat is important because you need to match it with the music of the beat. But let's just go based off the vocal. So that's my guess to play those notes. So we're in the key of D minor. At least is what I hear. Okay, so we could always change that over time, but we need to know the key and the BPM. So far, we know the key is D minor, and we know the BPM is 106. Now, key and scale, technically the key is D, the scale is minor, so we call that D minor. Okay, so now that you understand that, next thing you need to understand is chord codes. I teach these at busyworksbeats.com, specifically in my Music Theory in a Day course at busyworksbeats.com/music theory in a day. When you start on this foundation, everything else will make so much more sense, okay? So I created a way, and let's open up like FL Keys. Let's go gangsta on it. And we're going to add some chords in here. Now the chords, I'm going to give you guys a 4-step process. So the first thing is you need to understand every song has a top line. This is your memorable melody. The next component is called the harmony. This is your chords, what I'm about to show you. Then you have what's called the contrast layer. This is where you add your bass or your counter melody. Then you have what's called the rhythm section. Okay, so that's where you add your drums or your rhythmic instruments. So you know, any instrument in your song can be either one of these. So you have to understand, basically the point of this is to show you where stuff is. So for example, the vocal is the top line for this track. So what am I missing? I'm missing the harmony, the chords, I'm missing the bass, and I'm missing the drums. Okay. So this gives me a blueprint of where I'm at. Okay. So let's add some harmonies here. Now, if you guys want to, like, if you're super beginner, just go to busyworksbeats.com/blueprint because I already have melodies made for you guys. Just go to melodies. Let's go to trap. And we need to find something in the key of D minor. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, or 3 in the key of D minor. You could also transpose to D minor. I don't want to bore you to tears though. So let's just grab this. Now this is at 140 BPM. Let's grab this one. Okay. Now this is going to be our chord layer for the most part. So this says 140 BPM. So what I'm going to do is show you guys a trick here in FL Studio. We are going to double click on this audio, switch the mode to stretch mode. So now when I change the BPM to 140 to get the length of this, it will not move this. So this is important for FL Studio users, basically. If you have a lot of audio, you need to make sure that they're on stretch mode. Another shortcut is if you go to Tools, Macros, switch all audio clips to stretch. It will turn every audio clip you have in your playlist to stretch mode. So when you change your BPM, it won't move the audio around. Okay. Now let's go up to 140. The reason I'm doing this is because I need to know the length of the audio. Okay. So that if we have to make any chops. So right here, we have to make a chop because the tail at the end here. Okay, so let's go here, make it unique as a sample. And we're gonna double click. And this one, we're gonna make it turn it on stretch mode, and we're gonna go back to 106. So there's a lot of steps involved here in FL. And now we need to basically shorten this to half the length because it's double the length. So we're gonna double click on the sample, pull the time knob in to 16 bars. Let's go back. Now in the sample, we have a contrast layer and we have chords. Okay, the strings are playing the chords and the down is the contrast. You ain't pop, shoot. Talking about 100 bottles. You ain't pop, shoot. How you talk? Now the clips. You ain't shot, shoot. Spin it. So I could tell the acapella is kind of going off the grid here. Talking, batching, popping, tag. You ain't pop, shoot. Talking about 100 bottles. You ain't pop, shoot. How you talk? Now the clips. You ain't shot. Let's double check. Let's turn the metronome on. All right, so the loop, I kept that human timing in there. Let's just slip it to the left. Tag, you ain't pop, shoot. Talking about 100 bottles. You ain't pop, shoot. Talking about you. All right, let's slip this back. Okay, so I'm gonna make this simple. We're just gonna chop a piece of this because this is a dynamic performance. So let's slice this. We're gonna just copy and paste it over just for the video's sake because this is turn into a tutorial and that's not what I'm trying to do. Talking, popping, tag. You ain't pop, shoot. Talking about 100 bottles. You ain't. Okay, so what I'm doing is just slicing the rhythmic part that matches. It's copying and pasting just for this video. So what is in the sample? We have a harmony and a contrast layer. So now we have this layer and this component here. So we have all three components here, but that's only 3 of 4. Let's get some drums here. Let's go to busyworksbeats.com/blueprint. Let's get some drums here. You ain't pop, shoot. Talking about 100 bottles. You ain't pop, shoot. How you talk? Now the clips. Give you guys another. You ain't shot, shoot. Spending money on it. You ain't shoot. Talking about you, popping, tag. You ain't pop, shoot. Talking about 100 bottles. All right, so now it's just about when you're in this workflow, it makes you stop pausing the beat every 2 seconds because now you know what you're adding and you're not thinking about every little tiny decision. So now you're just allowing your beat to flow. Also, here's a tip. It's producing while your beat is looping. That's another kind of technique without, so try not to stop the beat. Now I'm just making a quick beat. This is not supposed to be a hit beat right here. You ain't shot, shoot, spending money on it. You ain't shoot, talking, batching, popping, tag. You ain't pop, shoot, talking about 100 bottles. Another thing, you know, when you're producing, I found that playing by hand gives you so much more expression. So let's add this kick. Talking, batching, popping, tag. You ain't pop, shoot, talking about 100 bottles. You ain't pop, shoot. How you talk? Now the clips. You ain't shot, shoot, spending money on it. So little changes in velocity add, you know, a lot of detail over time. Not that everything needs velocity sensitivity, but when everything is the same velocity, you end up getting a very flat beat and it just sounds like it's not moving. So I like to record stuff by hand when I can, bars. Let's hit Control L. I forgot to show you guys the chords. Okay, so if I wanted to add chords, remember we're in the key of D minor. To create a minor chord, let me show you guys how to do it. So you're going to find the root note, in this case, D. And if you want to make a minor chord, you're going to count this as what's called 0, the 0 point, the point of rest. So this is 0. Now we're going to count up the keyboard until we finish out the chord code. You guys can get a chord code chart for free at busyworksbeats.com when you sign up for free. The chord code for a minor chord is 037. So this is 0, the point of rest. and count up your keyboard. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This always makes a minor chord. So now you can add this in your beat. Now, if you're into trap beats, I'm just going to show you guys the shortcut because it's too much to explain right in this video. The next chord you want to understand is called a suspended second chord. And all you're going to do is drop this middle note down one. This is called a suspended second chord. The chord code for it is 027. So that's how you make this chord here. Okay, so what we're going to do to thicken up this chord, copy this bottom note, the root note, into the bass. So I'm going to play this by hand, but those are the two chords we are going to add. Actually, I'm going to do it on my keyboards just because it has a better sound here. You ain't pop, shoot. Talking about 100 bottles. You ain't pop, shoot. How you talk down the clips? You ain't shot, shoot. Spending money on it. You ain't shoot. Talking, bashing, popping, tag. You ain't pop, shoot. Talking about 100 bottles. You ain't pop, shoot. How you talk down the you ain't shot, shoot, spending money on it. You ain't shoot, talking, bashing, popping, shit. You ain't pop, shoot, talking about 100 bottles. You ain't pop, shoot, how you talk down the clips. You ain't shot, shoot, spending money on it, shoot. You ain't shoot. All right, so let's say we want to add our own bass line. We don't want the bass line from the sample. Here is where we're getting a little into tutorial land. Let's hit Control L. We're going to add what's called a parametric EQ2. You could use whatever you have. We're going to switch this to a high pass filter here, cutting out the lows, make it a sharp curvature. Cut up to about 200 hertz. Now we got rid of that. Now we can add our own bass. Let's go back to the blueprint because we have a ton of 808s in here. So let's find some 808s. I like the spans. I call it spans. So also too on the master here, we're going to run through. I like to hear my beats going into a soft clipper. So a lot of people just leave it at that. But what you can do is actually add a parametric EQ2 and boost into the soft clipper. So now you're hearing more volume into the soft clipper. So you can turn your sounds down. This will help you with leveling. You ain't pop, shoot, talking about talking, bashing, popping, tag. You ain't pop, shoot, talking. Let's record this 808. You ain't pop, shoot, how you talk down the clips? You ain't shot, shoot, spending money on it. You ain't shoot, talking, bashing, popping, tag. You ain't pop, shoot, talking about 100 bottles. You ain't. Bashing, popping, tag. You ain't pop, shoot. Talking about 100 bottles. You ain't pop, shoot. Another thing I want to mention here is the pattern called tresillo. So tresillo will create a ta, 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 ta. So as I'm doing my drums, listen for the tresillo pattern. You guys will realize that it's very ubiquitous in hip hop and rhythms like that. So it's ta, ta, ta. Now you can switch it up in many different ways, but that's the basic pattern. You ain't pop, shoot, talking about 100 bottles. You ain't pop, shoot, how you talk down the clips? You ain't shot, shoot, spending money on it. You ain't shoot, talking, bashing, popping, shit. You ain't pop, shoot, talking about 100 bottles. You ain't pop, shoot, how you talk down the clips? You ain't shot, shoot, spending money on it, shoot. You ain't shoot. Talking, bashing. Another shortcut for your bass is what we're going to do is just play the root note. What we did, we played D, and then we're going to play what's called the perfect fifth. This is 7 notes up from the root note. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's called the perfect fifth. And that's another way to add more notes into your bass lines when you're not sure where to go. You could add that perfect fifth, which is 7 notes up or 5 notes down. And you could take that same root note and play it up an octave. So all I'm doing here is just playing fifths. So we go from D to an octave to the perfect fifth, and then I'm going to the fifth of A, which is E. So that would be 7 notes up or 5 notes down. So all I'm doing is just playing fifths and octaves in the bass. So if you ever struggle with bass, practice your fifths and octaves.
You ain't pop, shoot. Talking about 100 bottles. You ain't pop, shoot. How you duck down the clips? You ain't shot, shoot. Spending money on it. You ain't shoot. Talking about it, poppin' shit. You ain't pop, shoot. Talking about 100 bottles. You ain't pop, shoot. How you duck down the clips? You ain't shot, shoot. Spending money on it, shoot. You ain't shoot. Talking about it, poppin' tag. You ain't pop, shoot. Talking about 100 bottles. You ain't pop, shoot. How you duck down the clips? You ain't shot.
Right now, you know, a beat also comes down to harmonic content. The high frequencies, the middle frequencies, the low frequencies. Harmonics is like, do we only have low frequencies? Do we only have mid frequencies? Or how high of the frequency do we have? The more frequencies we have in a beat, the more energetic it sounds. So let's figure out what we need in this beat, energetically speaking. We already have the top line. We already have our contrast layer, which is the 808. We already have the chords. And what is this here? We already have the melody in here. So we have the 2 harmony sections here. And we could separate. Now, if we want to arrange, for example, I could take out the, you know, the dun, 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 and just leave the piano, or we could swap them. Okay, so now we have 2 different sections because we understand that they're both harmonies. So whenever you struggle with arrangement, it's probably because you don't have enough of one of these components. It could be a different instrument, a different way to play the chords, or just a different chord progression.
You ain't pop, shoot. Talking about 100 bottles. You ain't pop, shoot. How you duck down the clips? You ain't shot, shoot. Spending money on it. You ain't shoot. Talking about poppin' shit. You ain't pop, shoot. Talking about 100 bottles. You ain't pop, shoot. How you duck down the clips? You ain't shot, shoot. Spending money on it, shoot. You ain't shoot.
So I should theoretically be able to copy and paste this.
Wait a whole 100-pound red bottle. That's a $250,000 on the head job, my nigga. Sticker. You ain't never came with you. Go put it on the picture. Go put it on a t-shirt. Back in the day with a sell dope. I'ma slap your daddy out and then put him in the yoke. Bought it. Woo. Turn up. My ambitions as a rider. Sipping on live. Getting higher. I'm a fire. No, you not a firm whip driver. Shout out to the shooters and the shooters only.
And I'm just taking out parts without even hearing the beat. I can tell if it's gonna work or not.
When you hit him in the head, can you keep it solid? Bulletproof whip, real blood up. Like some raw, uncut, dope blood up. Ever since you gained up the blood up, I don't give a fuck where you at, the blood up. Talking, batching, popping, tag. You ain't pop, shoot. Talking about 100 bottles. You ain't pop, shoot. How you duck down the clips? You ain't shot.
Another thing is I learned to don't be afraid to turn your beat up. A lot of the time when you guys are using drums, you know, here's one thing I forgot to say. Drum samples are huge. Like, guys, I have 700 terabytes plus of just drums, drum machines, drum kits, all types of drums from all different people. Okay, so you got to just take a whole day, look for samples. You can find those in our Discord. Look for drum kits. You can find those on Reddit. You could buy them from different producers. Just go on the internet and look for sounds. Being a producer is like a Pokemon trainer. Like, when you have seen all the Pokemon, you know what a Radish looks like. You know what a Rattata, whatever, I'm forgetting the names, a Pikachu, you know what a Raichu looks like. And you could pull from those Pokemon. And then when you learn all the Pokemon, you can say, okay, Raichu is an electric Pokemon. So I need an electric sound. Not that I need a Raichu, I just need an electric Pokemon. Then you get into the categories of sounds. But the first thing to do is see the Pokemon. So you have to do the same exact thing for sounds. You need to see all the sounds so that you can pull from the palette anytime. So that's why I've done it for you. It's over 3,200 sounds. If you guys go to busyworksbeats.com/blueprint, I have a ton of stuff in here for you guys. So it gets really deep, but
Tuck it, bash it, pop it, tag.
take a whole day to do
You
that.
ain't broke, shoot. Tuck it, about 100 bottles.
And don't be afraid to turn your drums up. Like people are afraid to just push, especially when you push into a clipper. That is the sound by turning your sound up into a clipper or compressor.
Tuck it, bash it, pop it, tag. You ain't broke, shoot. Tuck it, about 100 bottles. You ain't pop, shoot. How you tuck down the clips? You ain't shot, shoot. Spending money on it. You ain't shoot. Tuck it, bash it, pop it, tag. You ain't broke, shoot. Tuck it, about 100 bottles. You ain't pop, shoot. How you tuck down the clips? You ain't shot, shoot. Spending money on it, shoot. You ain't shoot. Hey, shoot. Shoot. Buy the whole 100 pair of red bottoms. Shoot. That's $250,000 on the head job, my nigga. Sticker. You ain't never came with you. Go put it on the picture. Go put it on a t-shirt. Back in the day with a sell dope. I'ma slap your daddy out and then put him in the yacht. Hey, bought it. Woo! Turn up. Mac M bitches as a rider. Sippin' on limb. Yeah, I'm a fire. No, you not a firm whip driver. No, sir. Shout out to the shooters and the shooters only. Yes, sir. You never walk around with a lot of money. Yes, sir. Undone's falling all out your pocket. When you hit them in the head, can you keep it solid? Bulletproof whip, we'll blow it up. Like some raw, uncut, dope, blow it up. Represent your game, up the blood up. I don't give a fuck where you at, blow it up. Tuck it, bash it, pop it, tag. You ain't broke, shoot. Tuck it, about 100 bottles. You ain't pop, shoot. How you tuck down the clips? You ain't shot, shoot. Spending money on it. You ain't shoot. Tuck it, bash it, pop it, tag. You ain't broke, shoot. Tuck it, about 100 bottles. You ain't pop, shoot. How you tuck down the clips? You ain't shot, shoot. Spending money on it, shoot. You ain't shoot. Hey, shoot. Shoot. Catch you slipping at the red light. Shoot your AK. Let me see you shoot that. Shoot that. You a goon. Let me see you prove it. Presidential rolling in the sliding. Loving wrist when it's shining. Hating the wrist when it's
So I'm arranging the beat without even hearing it. So it's all about energy at this point when it comes to arrangement. But again, when you have these four components, you understand what you can move around as far as puzzle pieces instead of stacking everything up, the two harmonies, which creates all the energy. I'm going to remove the dun 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 dun, which is the more energetic harmony. So for the more laid back parts, I'm playing these simple dum, boom, boom chords, okay, because they're spread out over time and they're soft compared to the string. And whenever I want the beat to kind of dull out a little bit, I'll take away the hard kick and I'll let the 808 just hit by itself. It's a little bit softer on the impact. So that's how I'm measuring this point of the beat. Is like when you're arranging, it comes down to these four components, the categories of sounds, okay? So that is my system. If you want to learn more, just go to busyworksbeats.com. We train over 1 million producers around the world. Some are going to work with Drake, Kanye West, Post Malone, Ariana Grande, French Montana, Young Thug, Polo G, Trippie Redd, J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, Glorilla. Some have won Grammy, some have got platinum plaques. So just go to busyworksbeats.com and learn all the fundamental components so that you can be way better. And it's free. So just hop in for free for a limited time. If you hop into, we have free courses, but we also have a 14-day free trial for our paid stuff. So you get to experience everything for free up front. Okay, and if you want to continue, you can continue. All right, guys, share with a friend. But these are real lessons, and I even showed you them in real time. All right, y'all, peace.